Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton joins us now. He's an Afghanistan war veteran, serves on the Armed Services and Judiciary Committee. Senator, thank you very much for being here. Obviously, this kind of speech, the UN speech, is always an opportunity to sort of lay out your approach to foreign policy as the President of the United States. It's a sole foreign policy venue, speaking to the world about where you stand and who you are. How do you think he did?
Martha, Joe Biden walked into the United Nations today and put a giant kick me sign on Uncle Sam's back. He claimed that he didn't want a new Cold War with China. The leaders in Beijing are laughing at Joe Biden in America right now because they've been waging a Cold War against us for decades, stealing our jobs by the millions, infiltrating our high-tech businesses and our universities with spies, building a military that one day might compete with our own. And Joe Biden not only says that we're not in a Cold War and that he'll fight to win it, he literally would not use the name China. He was like a scared child from a Harry Potter novel who wouldn't say Voldemort's name because he was afraid about what might happen. And that's to say nothing of the betrayal of our partners in Afghanistan or our allies who now question our resolve, or the fact that on Israel, the main point he made was trying to get Israel to go back into negotiations with Hamas, which controls much of the Palestinian people's territory, and just a few months ago was launching missiles at Israel at the very time when his party in Congress was yanking billions of dollars to refund the Iron Dome missile defense system.
Yeah.
Martha, that's a defensive system. It's not used for offensive purposes by Israel. It's used to protect innocent civilians inside of Israel. And Joe Biden says you need to sit down and negotiate with those Hamas terrorists. This was a disgraceful approach.
That's a very important point to note in terms of the funding for the Iron Dome and what was said there. I always think it's interesting to go back and look at the prior president's approach to these speeches, because it really is a marker for how you want to be seen in the world. And in his first speech in 2017 to the UN, President Trump talked about spending $700 billion to make our military the strongest that it has ever been. He went on to call out the leader of North Korea as depraved. He went after him for what happened to Otto Warmbier. He said that he was twisted and that he had poisoned his own brother in an airport in South Korea. Very, very specific in his charges and his accusations against one of the bad actors in the world. We didn't hear that kind of specificity today at all, Senator.
No, not at all, Martha. You know, the United Nations is often at best an irrelevant debating society and at worst a protective umbrella for the world's worst dictators. Joe Biden didn't call out many of those malefactors today like President Trump had done, and he didn't say exactly what we were going to do when people crossed our red lines, whether it was trying to kill Americans at the Afghanistan airport last year, or Iran restarting its nuclear weapons program, or a country like China continuing to threaten Taiwan, whom we are bound under U.S. law to help support, maintain their autonomy and their independence from mainland China. Those are the kind of things to expect an American president to stand for at the United Nations, not to go in to apologize for America at a time when America's standing in the world has already declined substantially under Joe Biden's 8 months in office.
Relatively short speech, about 35 minutes, sort of, basically soft in its delivery in terms of the way that he brought that speech forward today. Senator Cotton, thank you very much. Always good to see you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Martha.
You bet.